For decades, the suburban cul-de-sac was the ultimate symbol of American safety. You bought the house at the end of the street so your kids could ride their bikes without dodging traffic. You planted hedges. You put up a privacy fence. You thought you built a sanctuary. But look closely at the geometry of your neighbourhood. One way in, one way out. Houses arranged in a perfect circle facing inward. In peacetime, it is a quiet community. But when the grid goes down and the rule of law evaporates, your secluded haven becomes a pre-constructed cage. You did not buy a sanctuary, you bought a ticket to a fatal funnel. And the predators know exactly where to find you. It is hour zero. The event drops without warning. Maybe it is a localized EMP or a massive cyber attack on the municipal grid. It does not matter. The result is the same. The power cuts out, the water pressure drops. The cell towers switch to backup generators that will dry up in exactly 48 hours. Right now, the silence in your subdivision is absolute. No hum of air conditioning units, no distant traffic, just an unnatural, heavy quiet. Your neighbours step out onto their manicured Kentucky bluegrass lawns, looking at the sky. They are confused, but they are not scared yet. Normalcy bias is a powerful narcotic. By hour 4, the first wave of panic sets in. The smart ones quietly pack their cars, trying to beat the traffic. But here is the first deadly flaw of the cul-de-sac. It is a logistical dead end. You have one road out that feeds into a collector street, which feeds into a main arterial highway. Every single subdivision is doing the exact same thing at the exact same time. The arterial roads become clogged instantly. A single stalled vehicle at the intersection turns the entire neighbourhood into a parking lot. Those families who tried to bug out are now abandoning their cars and walking back to their homes. The trap has already snapped shut. You watch them drag their rolling suitcases back up the driveway. You think you are safe because you stayed put. You locked your deadbolts. You closed your blinds. But look at your house from a tactical perspective. It is a cardboard castle. Modern suburban homes are constructed with lightweight wood frames, exterior vinyl siding, a thin layer of oriented strand board, and half-inch interior drywall. You might feel secure behind that locked fiberglass front door, but you are confusing concealment with cover. Concealment hides you from observation. Cover stops incoming fire. Your home has almost zero cover. If a panicked mob or a hostile group rolls into that cul-de-sac turnaround, they have a simultaneous, unobstructed view of every single house. It is called the fishbowl effect. If you try to peek out your master bedroom window, you are completely exposed. If a firefight breaks out, a standard 5.56 rifle round will pass cleanly through your exterior wall, travel through the interior walls, and potentially exit the other side of your house. Hiding behind a drywall corner in a shootout is a fatal error. Unless your home is built of solid brick or cinder block, your cul-de-sac fortress is a ballistic sieve. The sun goes down on the first day. The grid is still completely dead. This is when the glass liability becomes terrifyingly obvious. Suburban homes are designed for natural light and curb appeal. You have large ground floor bay windows, sliding glass patio doors, and decorative sidelights around the front door. Every single pane of glass is a breaching point. A standard window can be quietly shattered in 2 seconds with a ceramic fragment from a spark plug. No alarms will sound. No police cruisers will come around the corner. The barrier between your sleeping family and the chaos outside is less than an inch of brittle glass. Nighttime brings a new hazard: light discipline. In the pitch black of a grid-down suburb, any light source is a beacon. If you turn on a heavy-duty flashlight, or even light a single candle in your living room, it projects your silhouette against those large front windows. Anyone standing in the dark street of the cul-de-sac knows exactly how many people are inside, and exactly where you are standing. You are effectively broadcasting your tactical position to the entire neighbourhood. You need blackout protocols immediately. It should be standard SOP. Heavy contractor trash bags taped over the windows. But most people do not think of this until the glass breaks. By the end of hour 4, the realization hits you. This is not a temporary blackout. The veneer of civilization is peeling back. You look at your child sleeping on the couch, unaware of the shifting reality. Your motivation cannot just be about staying alive. Self-preservation will only take you so far when exhaustion and hunger set in. You have to shift your mindset to absolute protection. You have to fight so your child does not look up at you tomorrow with cracked, bleeding lips, asking for a drink of water you do not have. Guilt is a far stronger motivator than fear. You have to become the monster that keeps the other monsters out. You start auditing your supplies. You check the pantry. A few boxes of pasta, some canned beans, half a case of bottled water. The average American household has less than a 3-day supply of food and water. We are entirely dependent on just-in-time delivery systems to restock local grocery stores. When the trucks stop running, the shelves are stripped bare in hours. You realize, with a sinking feeling, that your quarter-acre lot with its pristine lawn produces 0 calories. You are living in a biological and resource desert. There are no natural potable water sources. The decorative retention pond down the street is heavily polluted with lawn fertilizers. The illusion of the American dream is fully shattered. The panic is no longer a slow burn. It is a wildfire. You hear the first gunshot echo from a few streets over. It is sharp and final. The sound cuts through the neighborhood like a siren. The initial phase of the collapse is over. The event has transitioned into the lockdown. You are isolated in a geographic fishbowl with dwindling supplies and neighbors who are rapidly realizing they did not prepare. The 72-hour clock has officially started ticking. Hope is not a strategy. Most people guess they have enough food, but the math says otherwise. They think they can wing it when the grid falls apart. That is how you end up becoming a casualty in your own driveway. Do not wait until the first window shatters to realize you are unprepared. Go to protocolsurvival.com right now. Calculate your actual survival score and enroll in our free Catastrophe Survival 101 course. Get the training before you desperately need it. Build your knowledge base while the internet still works. Prepare your family. The link is waiting for you. Day 1 bleeds into Day 2. The lockdown phase is not full of dramatic shootouts. It is defined by an agonizing, grinding reality. The adrenaline fades, replaced by a hollow, gnawing anxiety. The water stopped flowing from the taps yesterday morning. The municipal pumps require massive amounts of electricity to maintain pressure in the water towers. When the grid fails, gravity drains the system in hours. If you did not fill your bathtubs during the first hour, you are now staring at dry faucets. First is no longer a concept, it is a physical weight in your throat. You have a few gallons stored in the garage, but you have to ration strictly. You enforce extreme water discipline. No washing dishes, no bathing. Every drop is for hydration only. But then the sanitation issue rears its head. When the grid goes down, the municipal sewage lift stations fail. The pumps that push waste uphill to the treatment plants stop working. Your neighbours, unaware of the mechanics, continue to flush their toilets using pool water or melted ice. They think they are staying hygienic. They are actually arming a biological time bomb beneath their own homes. By day 4, the sewage lines reach capacity. Since the waste cannot be pushed uphill, it follows the path of least resistance. It backs up into the lowest drains in the neighbourhood. Usually, that means the basement floor drains or ground floor bathtubs. Raw, untreated sewage begins flooding into the lower levels of the pristine cul-de-sac homes. The stench is immediate and overwhelming. It is not just unpleasant, it is a massive biohazard. Without antibiotics or a functional hospital, A simple cut exposed to that environment will turn septic and kill you in days. You anticipated this. You dug deep sanitation trenches in the backyard before the ground froze, and you sealed off your lower drains with heavy rubber plugs. But the smell drifting from your neighbors' houses tells you they did not. The modern suburb was built on the assumption that waste magically disappears. Now the reality of the grind is setting in. You are not just fighting the lack of food, you are fighting infection disease and the invisible threats breeding in the stagnant water next door. Hygiene becomes your primary tactical operation. Then comes the silence. In a grid-down scenario, silence is both your greatest weapon and your worst enemy. During the day, the neighborhood is eerily quiet. Everyone is hunkered down, trying to conserve calories. You realize quickly that noise travels perfectly across the open yards. If you open a can of beans, the metallic click of the can opener sounds like a gunshot. If your child cries out in frustration, it echoes off the vinyl siding of the adjacent houses. You have to enforce absolute silence inside your home. You whisper. You walk softly. You turn into ghosts in your own living room. You realize that the real threat is not just starvation, but the psychological friction of confinement. Cabin fever sets in. The children do not understand why they cannot go outside to play. They do not understand why the devices will not turn on. You spend hours whispering reassurances, trying to keep their morale up, while your own mind races with worst-case scenarios. The emotional exhaustion compounds the physical caloric deficit. You are burning energy just trying to maintain the illusion of control inside a collapsing structure. It is a slow, miserable drain. By day 7, the hunger takes a firm hold. The average neighbor exhausted their pantry on day 3. Now they are eating stale crackers and scraping the bottom of peanut butter jars. The calorie deficit makes people sluggish, irritable, and prone to irrational decisions. You look out your blacked-out window and see a father from across the street, a man you used to wave to while mowing the lawn. He is pacing in his driveway, looking frantically at the surrounding houses. His eyes are hollow. He is no longer a friendly acquaintance. He is a desperate animal backed into a corner. This is the true danger of the lockdown, the enemy inside the wire. You might have heavily fortified your doors, stockpiled months of freeze-dried food, and loaded your magazines. But if the 5 other houses in your cul-de-sac are occupied by unprepared families with starving children, they become your immediate threat. You are faced with an impossible choice. If you feed them, you rapidly deplete your supplies and invite every other desperate neighbor to your doorstep. You will be bled dry. If you turn them away, you breed deep resentment and potential violence from people who know exactly where you sleep. You chose to keep your doors locked. The guilt is heavy, but the instinct to protect your own child overrides it. You sit in the dark, listening to the quiet sobs coming from the house next door. The proximity is terrifying. Cul-de-sac lots are tight, often with only 10 to 15 feet of space between houses. You can hear their desperation. You know they are eyeing your reinforced doors. They remember that you were the guy who talked about preparedness. They know you have supplies. It is only a matter of time before the polite requests turn into demands, and the demands turn into forced entry. You shift your focus to home hardening. You cannot rely on the deadbolt. You need to create actual ballistic cover inside the house. You start moving heavy dirt. Planters and sandbags are excellent cover. You pack bookshelves tightly with thick textbooks and encyclopedias. You fill metal filing cabinets with dense stacks of paper. You place bags of garden soil under the lower window sills. If rounds start flying through the drywall, you and your family have a designated safe room in the center hallway, fortified with dense mass. You are turning the cardboard castle into a bunker. Next, you address the exterior perimeter. You need to clear your fields of fire. Those decorative bushes under the bay windows, they provide perfect concealment for an attacker trying to pry open the glass. You crawl out under the cover of darkness and hack them down. You remove the lattice fencing near the porch. You want a barren, open space between your exterior walls and the street. If someone approaches your home, they must do it completely exposed. You are setting the stage for a siege because you know the isolation of the cul-de-sac is about to draw in outside predators. Day 10. The micrologistics are keeping you alive. You set up a water catchment system using tarps and heavy-duty plastic bins connected to your rain gutters. The slight drizzle yesterday yielded 5 gallons of dirty water. You filter it through a ceramic membrane and boil it over a camp stove in the garage. Carbon monoxide is a silent killer, so you carefully crack the overhead door just enough to vent the exhaust without letting the light escape. Every calorie burned must be calculated, every drop of water tracked. You are running a subterranean supply chain while the world above burns. But the psychological toll of the lockdown is brutal. You are trapped in a geographic fishbowl. Because the cul-de-sac is an isolated loop, it is incredibly difficult for you to counter-surveil the main road without being noticed. You cannot see what is coming down the arterial highway. You are blind to the larger tactical picture downrange. You rely entirely on sound. The distant rumble of diesel engines, the sporadic bursts of rifle fire. You map the chaos in your mind based entirely on acoustics. The violence is moving closer. The perimeter of the collapse is shrinking. By day 14, the neighborhood is fractured. 2 houses have been completely abandoned, their front doors left swinging in the wind. The residents either bugged out on foot or went scavenging and never returned. The remaining houses are silent, dark, and desperate. The illusion of community is gone. There are no neighborhood watch meetings. There is only a collection of atomized families hiding in the dark, waiting for the end. You realize that a disorganized street will be defeated in detail. If an organized force hits this cul-de-sac, they will simply kick in one door at a time. Defeat in detail is a military tactic where a larger force is destroyed by breaking it into small pieces and annihilating them sequentially. Because your neighbors refuse to organize, they are setting themselves up to be slaughtered one by one. They will hunker down in their bedrooms, praying the raiders bypass their house. This allows an attacking group to concentrate all their force on a single structure, breach it, loot it, eliminate the threat, and calmly move to the next. The lockdown phase has worn away their will to fight. The trap is fully baited. Day 15. The emergence begins. Survival author James Wesley Rawls coined the term the Golden Horde. It describes the massive influx of refugees and displaced persons that flee major urban centres when the food riots begin. Major highways act as the primary conduits for this mass migration. Suburbs built adjacent to these major arteries to make your commute easier are the first stops for these desperate wandering scavengers. The cul-de-sac, situated just a few turns off the main thoroughfare, acts as a natural catch basin for the horde. The first probing attacks start. They do not come in screaming like an action movie. They are methodical. An organized predatory group rolls into the neighborhood. They park a stolen truck at the entrance of the cul-de-sac, blocking the single point of egress. They place a scout in the tree line. They sit and observe. They are logging who is standing guard, what weapons are visible, and what the sleep schedules are. They recognize immediately that the residents are not communicating. They smell the fear and the vulnerability. The assessment phase is deadly quiet. Now, right about here, you might think the cavalry is coming. You tell yourself the National Guard will step in. They will roll down Main Street in armoured Humvees, establish martial law, and hand out rations from the back of a truck. That is the ultimate civilian cope. In a true grid-down collapse, the military will secure critical infrastructure. They will lock down power plants, water treatment facilities, and government headquarters. They do not have the manpower, the fuel, or the mandate to clear every suburban cul-de-sac in America. You are on your own. No one is coming to save you. The hostile group at the entrance makes their move. They blockade the choke point with debris and the stolen truck. Egress denial is achieved. Every single home on the block is now effectively contained. If you try to drive out, they will shred your engine block with crossfire. They control the flow of resources, information, and people simply by holding the neck of the street. They do not need to surround your house. The urban planners did that for them when they designed this dead-end street. The siege has officially begun. You cannot defend your home from the front porch. You must push the perimeter out. But doing so alone is suicide. You need a neighborhood protection force. You slip out the back door and low crawl to your neighbor's property. The same neighbor who begged for food a week ago. You offer a pact. You trade a few meals for their manpower. You assess their assets. A former high school athlete, a guy who hunts occasionally, untrained but capable. You assign them a sector of fire. You establish a mutual defense pact and rules of engagement using cheap whistle signals. You execute a nighttime operation to secure the choke point. You cannot let the hostiles dictate the flow of traffic. You and your makeshift squad push abandoned vehicles into a staggered chicane formation near the entrance. You are forcing anyone trying to drive in to weave slowly through a tight obstacle course, exposing the driver to flanking fire from the corner houses. You turn the fatal funnel against the attackers. You establish an observation post in the house at the absolute front of the street. That house is your early warning system. The next morning, the hostiles test your defenses. A small group approaches on foot, attempting to bypass the chicane. The warning whistle blows from the observation post. You and your neighbor open fire from fortified positions inside your homes, shooting through loopholes cut into the heavy window blackouts. The element of surprise shocks the attackers. They realize this street is no longer soft. They take casualties and fall back to the main road. The immediate threat is repelled, but you know they are simply retreating to reassess. The victory is short-lived. Adrenaline masks the physical toll of the firefight. Your hands are shaking. The ringing in your ears is deafening. You check your ammunition count and the reality sets in. You expended 30 rounds to push back a probing element. You cannot sustain a prolonged war of attrition. Your ammunition is finite. The enemy has the entire abandoned city to scavenge from. The Community Defense Pact holds for now, but trust is fragile. You are burning calories you cannot replace. The clock is ticking down to zero. You analyze the battlefield. The geography is still working against you. Even with the choke point fortified, the fishbowl effect remains. If they bring overwhelming numbers or heavy weapons, your barricades will fall. And there is one threat vector you cannot shoot your way out of. The ultimate siege tactic. Fire. If they realize they cannot breach your doors safely, they will simply burn you out. And with the houses sitting 10 feet apart, a fire in one home will rapidly spread to the entire block via radiant heat. The threat of fire forces a strategic shift. You must plan for egress. You must establish an unconventional escape route, because the front door is a death sentence. You start staging your bug-out bags near the back exit. You audit your gear. You check your offline maps. You prepare your family for the terrifying possibility that you will have to abandon the cardboard castle to the flames. You need logistics and intelligence to survive the next phase. You need a system that functions without a cell signal. When the grid goes dark, the cloud goes with it. You cannot search a survival manual when the cell towers are dead. You need a command center that works completely offline. I built Protocol Survival to be that exact system. It works on your device even when the internet does not. Secure your supply inventory, log your medical gear, and access your free training modules now while you still have a signal. Download the Protocol Survival app. Do not wait for the grid to collapse to realize you lost all your manuals. Get your command center running today. Day 31. The Long Haul. The skirmishes have stopped, but the siege has evolved into a slow strangulation. The hostile force at the end of the road has not left. They established a permanent camp down the arterial highway. They are starving you out. Social collapse is fully entrenched. The currency of the old world means nothing. Paper money is toilet paper. Gold is useless if you cannot eat it. The only things that matter are calories, antibiotics, ammunition, and trusted relationships. And all four are in critical short supply. Starvation begins to break the human mind. The neighbour you enlisted into your protection force looks thinner, his eyes sunken and erratic. He knows you still have a hidden reserve of rice. You see the calculation in his stare when he thinks you are not looking. The Mutual Defence Pact is fraying under the weight of severe caloric deficit. You are sleeping with your rifle slung across your chest inside your own barricaded home. The enemy outside the wire is patient. The enemy inside the wire is desperate. The pressure is unbearable. You attempt a covert barter operation. You slip through the backyards to a house 2 streets over, hoping to trade a box of pistol ammunition for medical supplies. Your child has a raging fever and the water filters are failing. You find the house ransacked. The bodies of the previous owners are decomposing in the hallway. It is a stark, violent reminder of the reality outside your cul-de-sac. There is no trading post. There is no honour among survivors. There is only raw, brutal acquisition. You return empty-handed, knowing time is up. Day 45. The besiegers make their final move. They are done waiting. Under the cover of a moonless night, they bypass the chicane barricade by moving through the drainage ditch. They are not trying to breach the front doors anymore. They brought gasoline. They douse the corner house, the one serving as your observation post, and ignite it. The flames shoot 50 feet into the night sky. The screams from inside are abruptly cut short. The radiant heat is so intense, the vinyl siding on the adjacent house begins to melt and curl. The ultimate nightmare of the suburban cul-de-sac is realized. A fire in a grid-down environment is an apocalyptic event. There are no sirens. There are no fire hydrants with pressure. The flames jump from roof to roof, riding the dry asphalt shingles. The entire semicircle of homes is turning into a massive, interconnected furnace. The hostiles fall back to the entrance, waiting with rifles raised. They know the smoke and heat will flush everyone out into the street. They are using the fatal funnel perfectly. It is an execution chamber. You enact the tactical breakout, bugging out from the burbs. Because the primary road out is blocked and covered by sniper fire, you must utilise the unconventional egress route you scouted weeks ago, the backyard highway. While the front yards face the kill zone, the backyards are but a greenbelt and a set of heavy power line easements. You grab your pre-packed bags, your rifle and your family. You move to the wooden privacy fence at the rear of your property. This is why you staged the heavy crowbar and the crash axe by the back door. You smash through the wooden pickets of the privacy fence. You do not climb over because silhouetting yourself against the glow of the burning houses is a death sentence. You stay low, moving parallel to the main roads without ever stepping foot on the pavement. You planned this topographical route during peacetime. You know exactly where the local drainage culverts lead. You know which ditches provide defilade from the main road. You are navigating the negative space of the suburb, the places where normal people never walk. Light and noise discipline are paramount. The sky behind you is an orange inferno, but the woods ahead are pitch black. You take down all loose gear on your packs to prevent rattling. You communicate with hand signals. You move slowly, placing every footstep deliberately to avoid snapping branches. You are exhausted, severely dehydrated, and carrying the weight of your entire remaining life on your back. Your child is terrified but silent, knowing that a single cry will draw the hunters into the tree line. You push deeper into the dark. The smoke thickens in the canopy, making the air caustic and hard to breathe. You pull damp bandanas over your faces, holding onto the back of each other's shirts to stay linked in the blinding darkness. The roar of the fire behind you sounds like a massive jet engine. You can hear the structural collapse of your home, the roof caving in, sending a shower of orange embers over the neighborhood. The heat pushes against your back, physically shoving you forward into the woods. Every step is an agony of exhausted muscle, but you cannot stop. You need a distraction to ensure the main hostile element stays focused on the street. Before you abandoned your house, you rigged a decoy. You placed several pressurized camp stove propane canisters near the front bay windows. As the fire consumes your home, the heat causes the canisters to rupture and detonate. The massive concussive blasts draw the attacker's attention toward the center of the cul-de-sac. They think it is a firefight. They concentrate their numbers inward. The decoy works perfectly, covering the sound of your escape. You navigate the drainage tunnel under the arterial highway. The water is knee-deep cold and thick with toxic runoff. But it is the only way under the enemy checkpoint. You hold your rifle high above the muck, dragging your family through the darkness. The echo of the burning subdivision fades behind you. You emerge on the other side, miles away from the fatal funnel. You are cold, wet, and homeless. You have lost the cardboard castle, the manicured lawn, and the illusion of safety. But you are alive, and more importantly, your child is alive. By day 100, the cul-de-sac is a graveyard of charred foundations and rusted-out appliances. The Horde stripped whatever the fire did not consume and moved on. The predators always follow the path of least resistance. The subdivision, designed for comfort, engineered for convenience, became exactly what it was always destined to be, a logistical dead end. The families who refused to see the geometry of the trap perished inside it. The normalcy bias they clung to became their epitaph. The suburbs were never built to survive a siege. You are out in the expanse now. You have traded the tactical nightmare of the suburbs for the harsh reality of the long haul. Your survival depended entirely on proactive mitigation. You pushed past the denial. You hardened your perimeter. You built alliances before the crisis hit. And most crucially, you recognized when the defensive position became untenable. You knew when it was time to slip out the back before the jaws of the trap snapped entirely shut. You survived because you changed your paradigm before the grid forced you to. The American dream was an architectural luxury. It depended entirely on cheap energy, immediate law enforcement, and the stability of a fragile system. When you strip away the emotional attachment to the family home, you are left with the cold geometry of the battlefield. The cul-de-sac limits mobility. It funnels threats to your doorstep. It concentrates fire hazards and isolates you from critical resources. It is a masterclass in how not to build a fortress. Stop looking at your neighborhood through the lens of peacetime convenience. Look at it through the eyes of a predator assessing a cage. Prepare the logistics, harden the structure, and map the escape routes while the streetlights are still on. Because at the end of the day, the grid isn't what keeps the lights on, it's what keeps the monsters out.